Welcome to the Fixxx with Shantel and Puma. We're going to be talking about some subjects that we hadn't talked about last show, but there are a lot of stuff, Shantel, that's happened since we've been on last. And we want to start off with Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace. Your thoughts on Kevin Samuels?
So we talked about a little bit, touched on this. I personally respected the man for his honesty. I thought he was blunt to the point, didn't sugarcoat shit and said it like it was. And I like people like that. So I respected him on that part. As far as like certain things and certain topics he would touch on, he was a tad bit abrasive for me at times. But at the end of the day, being that, he's passed away, I just feel like to say negative things about him wouldn't be a good thing. So for me, I just felt like he was abrasive, but he brought a lot of topics to the forefront on women and what they were asking about, and knowing that they couldn't meet, their significant other or anybody that they were trying to meet halfway. So in a sense, it was like, you wanted all this, yet you can't even meet me halfway and give me a little bit of that. So you want a man who has all this shit, but yet you can't cook or you can't provide to the home. So he brought a lot of that out to the public, to the open, for men to see too. So I respected him on that level. I just felt like, yeah, there were times where I was like, damn, a little bit too rough for me.
Well, I always look at it this way: no matter how the message is delivered, did you hear the message? And a lot of people are kind of, spitting on his name and kicking him while he's dead, which I was always taught you never really say anything bad about the dead. It can come and bite you in the ass. And so what it showed me was watching this show really kind of revealed the truth about certain women. I'm not going to say all women, because he didn't force anybody to call up on the show and get on the videos, things of that sort. But he exposed a lot of things about certain women who were looking for high value males. And some of the women that he exposed were delusional about, how they look, their certain situation, and why a high value man who is maybe 1 or 2% of the population would want them. And so I think he exposed that. Now, he used to do the same thing, or he still did the same thing with men. And his technique and his persona preceded him. He was doing the same thing. He brought that fire. My thing is that I felt like the backlash he got after he passed away, that women don't like to hear the truth. It's more important for women to be right than have the truth. Not all women. I'm not saying all women. And so when he brought that out, I think it ruffled the feathers of a lot of women, and he faced them to be accountable for themselves, accountable and be realistic, not delusional about where you are in life. He didn't never said you can't get to that point, but you got to be realistic about where you are in order to be truthful and honest about where you are in order to get to where you want to go. And like I said, he never forced these women to call him. And I get people who's like, well, I didn't like him. If you only watch 1 or 2 shows, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you miss the message, if you only get clips, 15-minute clips, you miss the message, because he's an image consultant. So it was his job to kind of look at your image and kind of help you improve. And he was getting couples together. He was, helping people in relationships. And so he used to just talk to men about, improving themselves. But one thing that I know you and I talked about in the past is that it's okay. It seems like it's okay for society to call men scrubs, you're no good, you're a dog and all this other stuff. But males have women counterparts or female counterparts who is just as trifling, dogs and all that other stuff. And he called it out. He called it out. And so I admire him. And all those women who like, I'm glad he's dead and all that other stuff, his message is not. So he woke a lot of guys up as far as who to look for as mates, because you guys who are trashing the so-called average dudes are the dudes you really need to go after, because all these women are trying to get the high value guy in the 1 or 2%. And if you got all those women going after that guy, what makes you think, if you don't have it all together, that he's going to choose you?
Sure. I do feel as though, we did speak on that, where I understood he was an image consultant, and I got it. And those were the things that were the certain things that bothered me the most about the certain messages he would say, where he would like talk to women and then just like break them down automatically, like, you know, you're big, or you're not this enough, feeling insecure in their own bodies and not being able to feel comfortable, and then you go ahead and you just break them down even more. I don't feel was the right way to do it. Yes, you can be an image consultant, it's not what you say but how you say it, and your message would have been heard and delivered more powerfully if you would have not have been gentle, in the sense of still be very straightforward on, you know, being honest about the truth. Yeah, you're wanting this man to bring this, that, and the third, but are you willing to meet him halfway? Be honest about that part. But when it comes to, you know, breaking down a woman's self-esteem for the sense of whatever your sense was, I did not appreciate that. I didn't like it. I think it wasn't called for. I think that yes, there are men that would look at a woman that maybe looks like me, normal body, doesn't, you know, I'm just a normal chick. I don't have no surgeries. There's no nothing. What you see is what you get. And then you want to go and make it seem like, yeah, these girls who got ass done, tits done, face done, everything that are not like they're not natural women. You want to put them on a pedestal, and half them bitches have no brains. Half of them women don't know how to cook. Half of them women don't know how to serve a man. They're just there for your check. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like, you're telling these women they're not good enough, yet these women are, only because of what? Their image. They're not giving shit to men neither. Some of these women don't know how to do 90% of what a real woman should know how to do. And I'm not talking about all, because I do know that there are those women that expect to do nothing and gain everything from it. So I get it.
So a number of things come out to me. The truth hurts. It does hurt. The truth hurts.
Mm-hmm.
No matter whether or not it's given brutally.
Of course it does.
But one of the things that I find in my life as a male dealing with females is that it doesn't matter what the message is. If it's given on a plate, a nice china plate, or it's given to you raw, they're not going to accept the accountability for it. And if
those are the ones that are not ready for it,
right?
Though. That's the thing. Yes.
And if you want to be considered equal with men, you're going to get the smoke. You're going to get the accountability. You're going to get all this stuff, whether it's rough or whether it's soft. It's going to come. It's on you whether or not you want to receive the message or not to improve. It's constructive criticism. Sometimes it doesn't come in a nice, neat package. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't come that way. And sometimes, and quite frankly, sometimes people need to hear that, the raw truth, and see things the way they are, not the way they want it to be seen.
Of course. Yeah. I agree, because I feel like I'm that way, where I'm very blunt and open, and sometimes I say things that could come across really rude to people, but it means well. There's a meaning behind why I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't sugarcoat shit. And I understand. So yeah, it's a back and forth with him and I. It's a love and hate relationship, I should say. Like, I've heard what he said, and a lot of times I did agree with what he said, and I was like, no, he's right. And half of these girls asked for it. Half of these girls were not ready for him, weren't ready for what he was willing to give him now. But then again, he never had I would say, like, a real woman who was able to meet him toe for toe, and that was able to take on his criticism and then be able to defend herself properly. He was always given these chicks that were like less than, I want to say, in a sense, where they were not ready for what he was bringing to the table, like what he wanted to say to them. So,
well, one of the things that, and like I said, I didn't agree with everything he said, but I agree with a lot of what he said. And one of the things that he pointed out a lot is he has statistics and facts. Women on the shows were coming in with their feelings and what their feelings were about. And feelings aren't necessarily the truth of facts. And so everything that he would say, he would bring facts and statistics and research. And women were like, well, I feel I don't agree with that. Well, whether or not you agree with it or not, it's the truth. So how are you going to deal with the truth? Are you going to just deny it and act like, nothing's happened? Or are you going to do something about improving yourself to be a better person, to get yourself in a position to get a person that you're desiring? The other thing that he pointed out is that, and what I kind of got out of watching his videos, I watch a lot of his videos, and like I said, I agree with some of the things, I don't agree with other things, but the way he kind of made me think that, I know as a young man coming up, I was always taught how to treat women, but I always wondered why or how, if women were kind of taught how to treat men, or were they kind of given what to expect or the expectations from men. So he got to have a car, he got to have a job, he got to get, that has nothing to do with how you treat a
We
man.
were not taught that way.
Right. And so that's what he was kind of bringing out, because he was like, okay, what do you, because he always asked the question, what do you bring to the table other than your body? And women couldn't answer.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that led me to think that, okay, women aren't really, young ladies aren't really kind of taught how to treat a man, how to nurture a man. And some of us as males aren't taught that either. But I know in my household, and my parents, they're like, you don't treat. I'll give you one quick story about my dad. I remember he was coming home from work and he was on the bus that particular day, and he saw a young lady crying on the bus, and there were three guys on the back of the bus near her talking about what they did to this woman. And it occurred to him that they were talking about, one of the guys was talking about her, and it made her feel less than, because he was putting out all this stuff out in the street. And when my dad got home, he laid into me like, you better not ever treat, whatever happens between you and a woman is between you and that woman. Don't you ever do that. And he was giving me this story. And so those are lessons not only I got from my mom, but got from my dad about how you treat women, how you nurture women. So I always wondered, when I was watching his interviews, were women taught that, or were they taught the expectations of, you got to have this, he got to have money, he has to be this, he has to be that, and what do you give in return to nurture that man to be able to give those things?
I mean, with my nationality, Puerto Rican women, we were taught to serve the man. We were taught that the men work, women stay at home, take care of the kids, and you wait on this person hand and foot. And then when I was raised by my mom, she was a very independent woman. So I was always told, you be independent. You need for nothing from somebody. You don't ever let somebody take care of you to where you have nothing, because if they were to ever leave, how are you able to take care of yourself? So you always make sure that you have your back at all times. You make sure you're always good. So that's how I was raised. I was raised with the mentality to always make sure that I was always okay, to take care of myself, that I never needed for nothing. So for me, but I also, because of having my grandmother, I was also the one who, in a relationship will cook, will clean, will do the chores will do what a woman who's married would do to men who weren't putting on a ring. And that's another thing too. We give. There's women who are like literally giving what a woman who's married gives and is not getting that in return. So I feel like in my generation, my way of growing up, that's how we were taught. And then having my mother, who was this, single mom, and I was taught that way too. And then on top of that, now I have a son, and I'm raising my son to have those same morals. Make sure, because most of these men too, you have to understand that there's a lot of men out there who are babied and don't expect a woman to take care of them. They don't bring shit to the table. Yes, you work, but you expect me to do everything, and you're not. Nowadays, it can't be that way. A relationship consists of you both are giving in your all to make it work, and it should be that way. And when one it can't carry the load, then the other one is supposed to carry that load for them, and vice versa. It's supposed to be that way. So I've taught my son now, like, you make sure that you know enough to get you through life, and having a woman is a plus. It's not a necessity. So without her, you can still eat, you can still take care of yourself. You don't need that. But two, you also still want to make sure that you treat that person well, and that you make sure you're being treated well, as treated the same as well. So I just feel like there's a lot of from the women who were left in our generation that had to carry their children on their own and take care of them. They weren't taught, because they were giving angry mothers who had to deal with shit on their own, and they were not taught how to in turn be able to love somebody correctly, and in turn give them something. They were taught like, no, you don't need these. Fuck these dudes. Like, you don't need them. That was
I don't need no man.
I don't need no man. Yeah, I could do it on my own. And in a sense, now you've raised women that, for the most part, carry on a kind of male tendency to where we don't need y'all. And that's the sad part. And then you have these women now, these younger women that don't do shit and expect you to give, well, I don't do nothing, I don't work, but I want 100 million, I want 100,000 when you come to me. Like, baby girl.
Yeah, like Does that make
The
sense? I
thought
think it makes sense to
process.
me.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't, because it's a give and take in a relationship. It's a give and take in anything. There should be nobody that should walk into something and you ain't got shit to the table, but you want me to bring everything and you're gonna live like if you're married and you have kids and you're taking care of his kids, then yes, I feel like if because there's a lot of single mothers out there who can't be there with their kids because they're always working.
Yeah.
And then you have these, you have these relationships where men are there. So then, yes, if you have to take care of her for that time being so she can raise your kids, so they can have one person in their household that's there with them 110%, what I wouldn't have given in the world to be able to do that for my son. But I was working 3 jobs to take care of him and I. So the struggle was real on my end. I didn't get to have that. So if she's having your kids and she's done what she needed to do in that relationship, then yes, you should be able to take care of her. But when you walk in with nothing, bitch, you can't expect. What are you trying to expect from somebody? Like, but then you have these men that go for these women that because they look good and they fucking ass is done, face is done, tits is done, then it's like you're gonna go straight to her before you come to me. I'm normal. I'm basic compared to the chick that got everything done. Now let me go ahead and do that. And I bet you I can do what that girl does in a heartbeat. I'm just not built that way. I don't want to have from you.
So one of the things that about the message and the messenger, Shahrazad Ali did the same thing years ago. Was talking to women, talking about how to treat a man and all this other stuff, and she got some of the same venom back, just like Kevin Samuels. So to me, it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. It doesn't matter the volume or the intensity of the messenger. If you're not ready to receive the message, you're just not ready to receive it, and you're gonna fight against it all the time.
Right.
So I salute Kevin Samuels. He came here with a purpose. I think he served his purpose. Sorry, he had to go too soon or so soon. I know the investigation about how he died and all that stuff is still out there. Maybe we'll bring this up on another show. But I know that those shows that he has on YouTube, and I see it all on TikTok and Instagram, some of the former shows of representing who he was and the message that he was trying to send to men and women, especially men and women of color.
Mm-hmm. So every update that we have now about Young Thug and Gunna's 56. It is now 56. Well, no, actually it's 88 count, but here it's 56 count Fulton County RICO case. So the prosecutors published an 88 count indictment against Young Thug and Gunna and 26 others they believe are part of a criminal street gang called Young Slime Life. And on Monday, they were charged with racketeering, RICO Act, murder, armed robbery, and participation in criminal street gang activity. The crazy part is there's a whole timeline of how it all went down. So I would say go to Hip Hop DX to kind of look at how everything went down. But a lot of it is from what I'm hearing has to do with some of their music that they were putting out, kind of telling on themselves, living that lifestyle and then putting it in their music, and now having to face these charges. So they sat behind bars for a while, and then they ended up coming out because I guess they bailed themselves out and had a barbecue and for their neighborhood. Like they just ain't about to sit in jail forever. RICO Act ain't something to fucking play with. So I don't know why they're taking this shit so seriously. I mean, taking this shit so lightly, but they could get into a lot of trouble, especially this is serious cases and serious allegations against them. So go to Hip Hop DX to look at like this 88-page indictment that they have and all this other stuff. They're even saying that Lil Wayne was somewhat involved because I know there was a man who was shot on his bus, and that could have been tied to the Young Slime Life gang that Young Gunna and Young Thug and Gunna are all in. So they raided his house. This list goes on and on and on. And I wanted to read something that Little Duval said. He said, one thing about this generation of rappers versus our generation of rappers, they ain't capping in their lyrics. Y'all really doing all the shit you say. In a sense, it's not something to be proud of because I would say there was a couple people back in the days that lived the lifestyle, Biggie being one, that was living the lifestyle while he was still, hustling, selling drugs, and was still rapping about it. It was Puffy that kind of got him out of where he was. You had dude from Death Row that was living the lifestyle and kind of in and out of the same thing. So you had Ice-T, who was a pimp and was doing his thing back then. So you have these people that were singing about. I think they were already almost out.
Yeah.
When they would talk about it.
Out. Yeah.
Were on their way out when they were talking about it versus like living in the life and then telling on yourself. Like, where's the code of ethics where made men move in silence? We don't speak on shit that happens. Like it's like that saying, don't talk about the Fight Club. It's no one talks about the Fight Club. Well, then why the fuck are y'all telling on yourself? So like, I feel like y'all deserve that shit, and don't drop the soap while you in there. Fuck out of here, bro.
So
you're gonna be somebody's.
I think I read that they have been following them for like 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I told you this story about me doing some work in the federal prison, like in the program, and a guy was representing himself, and he was showing. So they gave you, when you represent yourself as an attorney, they give you all the evidence against whoever they're prosecuting, and they gave him all these evidence and DVDs. I mean, loads of DVDs of him actually selling drugs, where he was, all this stuff, where his phone was, all this stuff. And so I asked him when I was looking at it with him, I'm like, well, how you gonna get out of this? And he's like, I can't. They got me. And I'm like, so it doesn't come swiftly, especially if it's the FBI. They kind of they really want to solidify their case so that once they drop the bomb on you, you have no wiggle room to get out of.
Yeah,
people are saying a lot about Trump, and like, hurry up and get this guy. It's like they're setting up their case to the point when they lower the boom, there is no wiggle room. They want to make sure they got the T's crossed and I's dotted. It's really kind of sad that you see a lot of videotape of folks who are videotaping themselves doing crimes and things of that sort, and creating their own evidence against them. And here we have another situation again. Here's how I think it's going to play out. And we hadn't talked about this. He's going to try, if he gets an attorney, his attorney is going to separate him and say, no, these are guys he hung out with, and he's not part of that. And so now it's going to become who wants to sing or snitch first when it comes down to this, because I'm not doing all this time for this dude to still be out there rapping and all this other stuff and bragging. Yeah, so it's going to become the snitch game now, because they're going to have separate attorneys, and they're going to try to, kind of divide this out like, oh, no, he wasn't part of that. His entourage was. So
exactly.
Yeah. So this is going to get real crazy. But when you're rapping about it, when you said earlier about the rappers who rapped about it, it was like they were rapping about the experiences they had, but they weren't in the game, because there is such a thing as the hip hop police that will follow rap groups and rappers all across the country, waiting for a misstep from them. And so, and you look that up on YouTube, the Hip Hop Police, and they talk about it. Rappers talk about it in a song. So I saw rappers back and when we were listening to it, that, hey, I'm talking about experiences I had, and I'm not saying all the stuff that would incriminate me, but giving you an idea of what my lifestyle was like. Yeah. This also plays to the rap industry's kind of rags to riches story that we all fall for when we have these new artists come out and they come out with these videos on, I was poor, I was selling drugs, and then I turned my life around. And it's kind of praising this criminal element that you can do this too, which doesn't play in today's kind of rap hip hop era.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm just waiting for when they have the tapes of them inside of the police station, and then they say, what will it take for you to tell us who did it? And then he says, a bag of chips and some motherfucking a can of Coke and shit. And then just eating the fucking, I can just picture it now. Like, you've seen 48. Yeah, where all it takes is a burger and them motherfuckers is singing like a canary. And you're just like, damn, you didn't even ask for like a good burger. You asked for like McDonald's. You could have got a steak. Like, I already know, like, if this shit happens to me, I'm gonna need a whole 4-course meal. I'm gonna need to serve, bib right here. Like, and then I'll let you know once I'm ready to let you know. But I just think that, yeah, that's exactly what that's gonna be. It's gonna be where you're right, where he's gonna have to say that he wasn't about it and he wasn't a part of it. when we know. I mean, he told on himself. So, um, and it's funny because there's a lot of people that are talking about it. Meek Mill is talking about it, and they're saying that they pray that they are fair to them. He also said, well, why can't KKK be indicted? Like, so you're quick to indict these men, but you're not quick to indict the KKK. So these are sort of the comments that are coming out of the woodworks for these two men. So I mean, it sucks, but it's a lesson learned. Like, you got put on, you came from nothing and had a way to get yourself out of something, to take care of you, your family, your kids. Because I think Young Thug has kids, Gunna has kids. You had a good future for them. You were living in that life and then had the opportunity to get out. And instead of getting out, you wanted to live this mafia life and lights and glitz and glamour and think you were, like the shit wasn't gonna catch up to you. Now, if you were like not having cameras in your face and not a rapper, you might have gotten away. It might have taken a little bit longer to get you. But you just made that shit an easy target and you put it on your back and you just ruined now your life and now everybody else's life that you were trying to help when you first started.
You can call it what you want, call it lust, greed.